Welcome back, boys and girls. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build your own dotnet watch command, not the one with hot module replacement, but the one that just basically restarts your app, the simple version. We're going to have our ASP.NET Core application. We're going to be editing it, and once we've edited it, it will restart, right? So pretty simple approach. The reason I wanted to show it is because we're going to be using some tools from the standard library that are perhaps not so apparent. So you will learn about that. And this kind of tool can give you some pretty interesting ideas. The first time I got to use the tools that I'm going to show in this video is when I was working with a platform. Let's say with software that was very configurable, and we had source controlled configuration that we deployed like code. As you're working on this configuration, you want to run tests against it. So the tool that I helped create effectively watches the configuration that you're editing and automatically runs tests against it, tells you if there are any validation errors, etc. So if you ever are working on a file system and you want some kind of real-time information about the files that you're working on, or you want to do something with those, this video might help you quite a bit. So don't forget, if you're enjoying the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to check out the description, and let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using dark mode, and I have my watch application over here and my ASP.NET Core application over here, right? So a super simple one. We have a couple of endpoints that we have placed to play around, and just a class in a subdirectory, just so we know that we are also handling that. I'm not gonna pretend like I know this stuff off by heart, so we're gonna first of all blind you with the browser anyway. Nobody complains about that. There is this FileSystem.Watcher class, and they have a really nice example over here where they spin up the watcher and do all the lovely, examples that the .NET documentation has. So I'm just going to grab the middle here. I'm going to leave the link to the documentation in the description as well. And the beginning of this video, I guess, is just me showing my approach of how I'm going to approach the solution of okay, I have a file system that I want to watch, and then I want to execute that file system with the .NET run command and restart it whenever there are changes in that file system. So I managed to find a file system watcher. Let's go ahead and copy the path. So the full path to here. Just like so. We don't need the @ and we don't need the full path to the CSProj file over there. All right. So we can just point it to the application folder. So if I change program CS, not just the CSProj file, I want to see the changes everywhere in this directory. Okay. There's also the filter over here. So let's say I only want to restart when I'm editing C# files. Okay. Include subdirectories. Hopefully that, it makes sense what that does. And then we have a bunch of event handlers over here. I'm just going to quickly take a look at the file system event handler. This is its signature. Come back over here, and I can go ahead and supply a lambda over here, and it's going to execute something. So when I'm developing a new solution, what I'm really trying to get is a quick as possible of a proof of concept. So here is going to be the proof. We got the press enter to exit and the read line to stop the application, and just a path to which we're going to be pointing. So let's open up the watch and run. So it has started up and it is asking press enter to exit. The only thing that's left for me is maybe to go into the program CS over here, change this to 2, and not actually like that, just from 22 to 2. And every single time I save, it's not like everything is just going to happen, or as I'm typing into the file, stuff happens. I actually have to go ahead and save it, and then we have the proof that yes, when I'm changing stuff in the subdirectories as well, it is going to keep printing out proof to the console. Let me go ahead and move that over there. So the watch is working. We're effectively watching a directory. So that is the first proof of concept that I have. Let's go ahead and comment this out. The second proof of concept that I now want is I want to start my application from another application. The way that you do this is you have to spin up a new process, and I'm not downloading any library. If you didn't know, all of these tools are already available to you in the C# standard library. On the process, you can specify the start info. And in here, we're going to do .NET and run and stuff like that. If you're not comfortable, or if you don't know how to use this, obviously you can Google on how to use the process or start info. You can also, let's say, get --help. You want to get something like this printed, so we can do this, or do the same with what's it called, with the .NET command line, right? So let's say I have something like this, and am I still in watch? Yep. So if I run this, obviously it's not going to print anything just yet. Maybe what I want to do is actually start the task. Okay. So let's run this, and voila. So I'm able to execute command lines, command line application using the start info over here. All I want to do now is to effectively execute the app from within this path, effectively, or from any path. All right. So if I do .NET run and specify help over here, what I'm looking for is something like dash project. So specify the path to the project. All right. So I already have the path to the project, and that's going to be this thing over here. Let's go ahead and supply that as the parameter over here. It's going to build and host my API. It is going to be running over here, and there we have it, our hello world. Okay, so now I know how to execute a path, and I have a project over here. So let's go ahead and place this command. So .NET, we have run over here, project, and then we specify the path as another parameter over here. Going back to the beginning, and now if I just run this watch command, we are gonna get, I'm surprised I'm not getting an error. Okay, I am getting an error, but it's a weird error. So the constructor doesn't support whatnot. We just want our string collection over here to, there is no params collection, just an enumerable one. All right, so I'm just gonna change this to an array and run this again. And hopefully starting. So you can see that my watch application is now starting the, what's it called, the API application. So as I'm going to exit this, maybe we will see that the application hasn't said that it's exiting. So potentially what it's still going to do is it's still going to run in the background. So that's one thing that you need to be careful of when you're using the process. You want to have some kind of mechanism around cleaning them up. Okay. So this hasn't effectively exited gracefully. What I'm going to do on my other screen is I'm just going to terminate the process for this application. And you can see I'm going to get application is shutting down over here. And if as I'm refreshing this, it's going to, well, the application is just not going to be running. All right. So we got our two proof of concepts. We have the starting of the process. We have the file watching. We now want the file watcher, this guy over here, to start the process. And as new changes are popping up and up, we want to stop the old process and start the process again. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a public class watcher. Okay. In the constructor, we can, let's say for now, take all of this stuff. We're not gonna take the console write line and read line. We're gonna be using something else, but I'm placing all of this over here. Let's format the document. The comments over here, I'm going to indent them, but I'm not going to put anything for them, if that makes sense. I'm going to add a public void on change. And actually, let's make this private, as this is going to be this function that we're assigning over here. Okay, or adding as an event hook. Right, there we have it. We don't want the using statement over here as, we don't want it to be used for the scope of the constructor. It's going to be used for the scope of the class. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to rename it here because it's going to be a little bit easier. And then I'm going to create a field. All right. So here's my watcher. Here are all the things that we're watching for. Perhaps the path that is matching here and here. We want to supply it from the constructor. And let's say I'll create my not meow watcher, but a new watcher. I'll take this, place this over here. For an empty parameter, I'll just signify this here so I don't forget. Var watcher. And as you spin up the watcher, it automatically starts watching for changes. All right, so you just effectively set it up, and this function is going to start being triggered. So then we want this process that we're running over here. Let's put this here while we're creating the class. Process runner. Let's call it something like that. As we have this process runner, we're going to be specifying the path. So again, string path. We will perhaps want to create this process. Again, quickly rename it, remove the var, and hold it as a field over here. All right. And the path, let's not forget to specify it as the last parameter. And there we go. So on change, we are going to create a new process runner for the path that we have over here, because we want to be able to reach it. Let's go ahead, take this path and supply it over here. And now as this is going to get triggered, we want to retain the older version of the process runner so we can actually stop it. So we want to be able to start and stop the process. So public void start and public void stop. There we have it. So on the process, we are going to have start, and that's fairly simple. Then on the process, we are going to have the kill command. And the kill command, you want to supply true to the entire process tree as well. All right. And then on the process, you can wait for exit. And that should be it for this. The process does start. We don't need that over there. So process runner, as I said in the beginning, that is just something that we're going to need to retain. Let's go ahead and take this process runner. Let's just say I'll make a new one just so this helps me generate the field over there. I'm not going to actually initialize it in the constructor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a public void start. As I create the watcher, that is not actually going to spin up any watching tasks. So what I'm going to have to do is actually call start. So at this point, I'm ready to kick off the initial process if it hasn't been already kicked off. I've had instances where on change just sometimes randomly triggers. So let's do this. If the current process doesn't equal null, let's go ahead and, if it is actually null. So if it hasn't been started yet, let's go ahead and start it like so. Okay. I think it's currently set to read only, so we want to go ahead and specify it also as null. Now, the process over here perhaps could be null as well. So if the process doesn't equal null, let's go ahead and stop the current process. All right, so we're going to call stop on here and delete this first initial space. And let's see what this suggestion here. Okay, yeah. So use null propagation, very good suggestion. Once we assign a new process, let's go ahead and start it again. Okay, so change comes in, we stop the process, we spin up a new one. We then want to start the process as we're starting it. So if the process is null, let's go ahead and start it. Otherwise, there is already a running process, so we don't need to do anything about that. Now, we don't want the application to terminate, and generally I don't like the solution of the console read line and press space to do whatever. I kind of want it to be a running task that we're waiting for to finish, okay? So a lot of people don't know this for some reason. As we're going to start our application, I'm going to create a new completion promise, okay? So besides the whole async task mechanism in ASP.NET Core, the building blocks for asynchrony in JavaScript would be promises. And we have promises in C#. And the way that they look is you have a new task completion source. Kind of sounds like token cancellation source, but a task completion source. So task completion promise. Completion promise has this thing actually finished. The task that I want to return from here, well, let's go ahead and return task completion promise task. Okay, so the way that you would complete this promise is very similar to how you would do it in JavaScript. Is you would have the resolve function, but here you have the set result or set canceled or set exception on the promise, right? And that would, you know, resolve your promise to that particular state. Hopefully it shouldn't come as a surprise that we should have another function over here that is going to say stop. All right, we want to stop whatever is happening over here. So at the beginning, Watcher, enable erasing events, gets or sets indicating whether the component is enabled, right? So first of all, we are going to disable the component. New events should stop popping in. We want to go ahead and dispose of the watcher. We are then going to take the current process and or effectively the last process that we have assigned over here, and we are going to stop it as well. Finally, on the completion promise, we're going to go ahead and set the result, and that is going to complete the promise. All right, this doesn't need to be a task, and it can actually be a stop. So what do we do now? How do we call the stop function? So a little trick again, not many people know about this. The way that you override the cancel command, and by the way, I'm just gonna put a wait over here. So once I have spun up my watcher, I want to go ahead and start it and wait for it to finish. All right, but anyway, on the console, there is, if you search for a cancel, there's going to be a cancel key press event, right? Same as before. I'm just going to do, Raider was helping me out over here. So we have the sender, the event args, and then the body. The function is void, but on the event args, there is going to be a cancel property. A little bit unintuitive, but let's go ahead and read this. So gets or sets a value that indicates whether simultaneously pressing the control modifier key and the C console key, Control C, or the control break keys terminate the current process. The default is false, which terminates the current process. Confusing, but shouldn't be. If cancel is being set to true, it should cancel it. If cancel is being set to false, don't cancel it. I will handle it myself, but it's effectively the reverse here. So we're going to be setting cancel to true over here to say, look, when you're pressing this, don't terminate the application automatically. It will terminate on its own, because what we're going to do is we're going to call stop over here. That is going to resolve the promise, and the application is going to continue. Okay. So we got the path to the watch, we got the cancel key press over here, we have the start, and once we have the, well, effectively our two puzzle pieces of watch the thing, start the thing, and then start the thing while we're watching it, and stop and start it, bring it up and down, is just a matter of resolving the logic and putting it into correct places. Okay. Let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to clear the console over here, make sure that the application currently isn't running. We're going to run the watcher. I'm going to press enter a couple of times here, and what I'm going to notice is effectively just exited the application, right? And my application is effectively still running. So I can clear the console and I can interact with it, and that shouldn't have actually happened. So again, in my resource monitor, I'm going to have to terminate the process, and you're going to see this sign. And the way that I'm going to inspect this is I'm just going to put console write lines in places and see what is executing and what isn't executing. So on change, I'm just going to say on change over here. I'm going to say stop over here. I'm going to say start over here, and then promise over here. With the stop over here, I'm just going to copy it and say that I'm also stopping this process over here. Okay, let's go ahead and clear. I'm gonna run this, and there we have it. So pressing enter a couple of times, it looks like maybe we have had some kind of one-time issue here where it started and exited on its own. So I'm very keen to try to replicate it. So the app at this point is still running. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it, and you can see that the application is shutting down and stop has been called. So let's go ahead and run this again. See, I don't have the issue this time. Let's go ahead, edit the number, save the file. We have the on change, it's stopping the process, building it, and restarting it. So if I enter this out, it's going to have something like that. Let's say I will edit this, see what we have on change. building. Let's take a look at the number has changed, and it did. What happened there in the first place, I don't know. So let me go ahead and maybe play around with it, try to replicate it, see if I can find what the issue is, but otherwise it's probably going to be the end. Okay, so I've stopped and started, cleaned, removed the bin and obj folders. Here you can see it had a little bit of a shaky start when it builds it initially and produces all of those artifacts, and it was still effectively watching those files. For that kind of stuff, you could probably do something with the file system arg that you want to ignore this folder as an event, a change event has been triggered for it, but I'm not sure what that initial blip was, but it's not occurring anymore, so I'm a little bit powerless here. So on that note, this is going to be the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you have learned something new. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to check out the description, and if you want the source code for this video as well as my other videos, please come support me on Patreon. I will really appreciate it, and a big and special thank you goes out to all of my current Patreon supporters. You help me make these videos. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good day.